Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Jay Williams on the line, and he is an entrepreneur involved in telecommunications, solar, also working in machine learning and AI. A lot of things going on. Excited to have you on the show, Jamie. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the time.
So I know one focus on some of your entrepreneurial ventures is disruption. That being said, I want to get into that, but before we do that, let's get a little bit further into your background. So how did you get started in your business and in your career?
Let's see. Well, I started out as a history major way back and then realized there wasn't a lot of pay for Trivial Pursuit wins. So this was back in the early 90s, mid-90s. And at that point, the dot-com bubble was blowing up, and I had a fondness for technology and somehow talked my way into a job as a senior system analyst for a telecommunications company, and realized that I better learn some stuff really quickly or I would get fired. And so I took the route of trying to learn some stuff really quickly and self-taught myself a bit of technology and development work. And that was kind of my first step into the tech side of the world. And from that point, I had a few different ideas that were floating around. And my first company was a distance learning business, virtual classroom management systems for K through 12 schools. That was back in the mid-late 90s, which I think was a little ahead of the curve. I would say in today's world, especially this week, distance learning is probably a pretty hot topic. But we were early in the game, and that business eventually led me out to the West Coast, where I took a role with an international education technology company. We had operations in about 57 countries, and over a few years there, ascended to become president of that business, which gave me a pretty general view of running a large business and all the gears that are involved in that. And from that point forward, put the entrepreneurial hat back on and began to, basically bring a couple different businesses online and kind of through, Darwinian evolution. Some of those succeeded, some of those failed, and, kind of continued down that path. But disruption has, as you mentioned, always been something where I think the greatest opportunity emerges from. It's also probably one of the most chaotic areas to sort of play in. But I think, the roller coaster ride, if you got the stomach for it, can be well worth it.
Awesome. And let's get into some of the things you're working on now. So like I said, disruption's a big theme for you. So telecommunications, solar, AI. I mean, where do you want to start with that?
Maybe we could start a bit with the solar and then talk about telecommunications, which also plays into the AI machine learning side of things. I guess about the past 10 years of my career, I've had at least 50% or more of my focus on renewable energy and spanning both residential, commercial, and utility scale. And most recently, I would say over the past 18 months, have been working on a project in Northern California, which would be kind of a first of its kind. We're working with NREL, which is the National Renewable Energy Labs, as well as engaged with the Department of Energy to create an energy strategy for a new development of 16,000 homes. The proposed strategy would allow us to kind of reinvent how the utility grid functions within the ecosystem of energy, meaning there would be a transactional energy marketplace where homes that produce energy can sell that energy to other homes, et cetera, within the community based on supply and demand needs. And we'll also have an array of intelligent storage devices throughout the community to, kind of throttle energy based on production, pricing, et cetera, and other variables. And, I think the utility markets are in a position right now that's somewhat precarious because they're staring down the barrel of what can be, and they're stuck in what has been. And so, this project, if it plays out as it's being, architected, I think could be kind of a shining city on the mountain in terms of what can be within those energy markets.
Wow, that's super exciting. I can see how that works, and doing it at the scale that you're considering it, I think that's what also makes it interesting because you're partners on that. So it could really change the market for solar.
Yeah, well, luckily, I've been able to get a lot of smart people. I would say most of them smarter than I am, to kind of come around the table on this and put their experience, resources, and knowledge into the fold. As I tell some of the individuals, if it wasn't for them, I would just be a lunatic talking about things that could be done. But they can actually help me get things done. So. I'm excited, and it's one of the biggest projects that I've had the opportunity to be a part of, much less kind of drive forward. So every day is different, and obviously, as we all know, this week the world is kind of operating under a new normal, and we're all trying to figure that out. So
let's get into what you're doing over on the telecommunications then.
Sure. Well, I've always had at least one hand in the telecommunications space, and over the past year and a half, I've had the opportunity to become involved in a couple different businesses that are really putting a stake in the ground. One of which is an intelligent conversational bot technology, basically the ability to train an automated human being, a synthetic agent, if you will, that's able to have communication with callers based on various needs and verticals. So healthcare, et cetera, where somebody could call in and the current coronavirus, we're actually in conversation, seeing how we might be able to assist there, where people could call in and go through a series of questions, answers, and dialogue around symptoms and be routed to the appropriate individual. So we're also seeing that overseas right now, because of quarantine issues in India, et cetera, lots of offshore agent sources are no longer sources. They've been forced to sort of close down, and we've got a technology that allows for the automation of a lot of that through conversational AI with proprietary machine learning underneath that. And then another project which I'm extremely excited about, because it kind of meets a lot of the criteria that I define as what makes a successful company, is a company called Caller ID Reputation. And what Caller ID Reputation does is it fills a void in the marketplace that's been created by the recent policy changes coming out of D.C. I'm sure some of the listeners have probably heard of Shaken and Stir, which is a mandate to put an end to robocalling activities across the carriers. And what's happened is the technical implementation of that strategy has swung the pendulum very far in the other direction. And the manifestation of that is, let's say, a university or a hospital or a healthcare system that has one phone number that is projected when their employees make phone calls out to their customers, patients, et cetera. And because of the technical implementation of caller ID tracking, these businesses are being caught in the net. So as we've probably seen on your cell phone, when a call comes in, you'll get sometimes it'll say spam likely or telemarketer, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But what's happening in reality is hospitals are making phone calls and it's showing up as spam likely. Universities are making phone calls. Large Fortune 1000 customers, Fortune 1000 clients are unable to make contact with their customers. And so the Caller ID Reputation platform is a tool that allows for businesses to load up the caller IDs that they use to make these outbound calls. And we are able to reach out to 8 of the major data aggregators and get a result for that phone number, so they can understand where they're being flagged, why they might be flagged. And then we take the customers through a remediation process where we validate the business and the use case, and then have to engage with those data aggregators that are providing the information that defines a number as being a telemarketer or flagged, or in some cases, some carriers don't even terminate the call, so the call never even goes through. So we're just
Wow.
sort of seeing, the market shake out based on these changes that have been implemented. And, we're getting a lot of false positives out there in the market. And these false positives don't have any sort of recourse, or they don't know what to do. So from a timing standpoint, I think it's the right tool at the right point in time to kind of solve some problems that are, evolving pretty quickly.
Man, that's awesome. And you're right. I had no idea that there was, I didn't realize that was happening, because whenever a call comes through and it says spam likely, I'm not answering it. You're right.
That's right.
It could be anybody else. Nobody else is going to answer, whether you're like, oh, this is spam likely. Let me roll the dice on this one, Jay.
Exactly. And so, that could be your hospital calling. Literally, I was on a call with somebody yesterday who, they're out, promoting blood drives. And right now we're in a, somewhat of a critical shortage of blood, because most of the blood drive activity happens at schools, universities, high schools, et cetera. And obviously they're all closed down. So this group is trying to rally the troops for blood donation, and they can't make calls because their phone number shows up as, spam likely, and so they don't connect to anybody, even though their goal is very positive. In today's world, if a phone number delivers 200 to 250 numbers on a given day, it'll just start getting flagged.
Wow, got it. So Jay, first off, I can talk to you about this stuff all day long, but we're just about out of time. If somebody's listening to this and they want to follow up to learn more about any of the ventures you have going on, what's the best way for them to do that?
I would guess maybe via email would be good. Which is do you have my email, or should I throw that?
Oh no, please get it. Yeah, throw it out there.
Sure, it's jay@calleridreputation.com.
Fantastic. Well, hey, Jay, it's been great catching up with you and learning more about some of the things you're doing in your entrepreneurial ventures and how you're working on disrupting multiple industries. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget, subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store, and if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments. Love to hear what you thought and what's going on, what kind of businesses and projects you're working on. And Jay, thanks again for coming on the show.